Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode of Leanne J Moments. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my journey of discovery to PCOS, how I got diagnosed, and how I've been managing the symptoms of PCOS ever since diagnosis just over a year ago. I think the first time it happened to me wasn't too long ago, to be honest with you. I think we're looking at about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, and I would just literally have the worst abnormal bleeding, but I'd become so introverted at that time that anything that was happening to me, I wouldn't go to the doctor, I wouldn't talk to anybody about it because I was afraid. I'd literally done that to myself from worry, from anxiety, from everything I'd been going through growing up, all the symptoms that I was suffering with. And it wasn't until one day I was at home with my parents and my mum was on nights, and I'd woken up that day and I was in pain. Pain as if I was having contractions. I was in so much, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't do anything. I was bleeding at the rate of I don't even know what. It was just running out of me and I was having contractions. And then all of a sudden, at a massive scream, my mum came running out of her room because she was sleeping. It was that loud. My mum used to sleep with earplugs in, so it must have been really loud to get her out of her bed and to wake her up. And she ended up calling the ambulance, and I ended up being taken to hospital by ambulance. Got to the hospital, they had me on, I was in so much pain, they had me on gas and air. It was that intense, and they did tests, they ran every test possible. They took blood, they did everything. They had me there a couple of hours, they did everything. And after all that was said and done, they found nothing. Eventually they sent me home. I think it was just some pain relievers. But the bottom line was that was my PCOS screaming out at that point in time. But they found nothing. Years went on, obviously I was in relationships, and when you think about starting a family and things like that, I don't know if I'm ever going to have a family or have children. From a young age, I used to say that to myself because I don't have periods. I don't have them. So I don't know how this is going to work out for my life. I used to think these things all the time. And remember, at this point, I'm still an introvert. I'm still thinking about everything internally. I don't express anything. I don't have conversations with people about anything. Everything I keep inside. So you can imagine what that was doing to my insides, and that was doing to my hormones. Because, you know, all these kind of feelings, they affect everything. Years passed by. And because at the time I just wasn't thinking about starting a family, I wasn't thinking about having kids, I've always wanted children, but where I was in my life at the point in time, you know, I wasn't planning on having children yet. So I wasn't as hasty in trying to work out how to, you know, fix my issues or going to the doctor to work out what was going on. I was in a committed relationship and we were talking about, you know, family down the line, planning 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the line. We were at that stage, and in the back of my head I was just thinking, I need to work out what's going on here. I'm hoping that everything that's been happening with me over the, you know, the years will just work itself out, and everything will just work out fine, and I'll be okay and we'll be fine without any kind of intervention. I went from no periods to having a period every month on time. And it was during that time that we had our best chances, and we did get pregnant. But then a symptom of PCOS is also miscarriage. And I remember the various occasions where we had that bad news, and then you're talking to your medical personnel and saying, well, why did this happen? We don't understand. And the response you get back from them is just so nonchalant. The response you get back from them is, you know, it happens sometimes. We can't tell you why it happened, but it happens sometimes. And sitting here now and looking back, or sitting here when I got diagnosed last year and looking back, and you just piece everything together. You piece your symptoms together from when you were younger. You piece together the miscarriages. You piece together random abnormal bleedings and feelings of contractions that end you up in hospital, but then they don't know what's wrong with you. And you're like, how did we not know this? How did no one? Why was this not looked at closely enough? And then you beat yourself up because you're like, why didn't you take the time to research this more? Because I think by the time I got to the place that we're having miscarriages, I was like, it has to be this PCOS thing that I've vaguely heard about. Because I've not been diagnosed, it can't be confirmed. But in the back of my head, I was like, it has to be this. At the point in time when I went to the doctor, I was having periods for 3 months. So I went from having no periods to having periods probably once a year to having periods every month like clockwork. So all of a sudden, they stopped. And then I was having periods, but they would last for 3 months. Sometimes I'd be literally heavy bleeding, heavy abnormal bleeding, 3 months. They gave me tranexamic acid to kind of slow it down and try and stop it. Didn't work for me. They gave me all sorts of pills. I was literally rattling, testing out all these different trial and error medications they were giving me to try and normalize my periods. And then when I went to the doctor, he said, oh, well, we should put you on the pill. The pill will sort you out, it will stop it, because you don't really need a period anyway. And I was like, we want to start a family. So the only reason I'm here is because we want to start a family. And nothing's working correctly. And so he sent me for some tests. They came back and he said they were normal. I swear down. Sometimes I look back in my life when these medical professionals come back and tell me that everything's normal, and I'm sitting there saying, well, it's not. Because if it was normal, I wouldn't be sitting here. All the tests came back normal, they were fine. So then he said to me, I'm going to refer you to gynecology, and I want you to obviously go through everything with them, go through the tests with them. I'll test your hormones and things like that. And hopefully they'll talk to you about fertility treatment. My God. How have I gone from everything is fine on the tests to now you're talking to me about fertility treatment? But anyway, I went away, I waited for that to come. And the first appointment that I had was back in 2018 with the gynecology department, and it's such a process. You have to go through so many different people to get to where you need to get to. So I went there, I had numerous tests at the time, and the first consultant that I saw, he was covering for the consultant that I should have seen that works with endocrinology and is the IVF lead, and he was the one that you really need to get in with. But I had to see this consultant first, and he was saying to me that, you know, all the tests are fine, all my levels are normal. However, because of everything that because I literally had to sit there and tell him my whole history. And he said, because of everything I've told him, he believes that I've got PCOS. So he wanted to send me for further tests, just to make sure that it is that, so we know what we're dealing with and what we're battling with. But he says, as for your test for fertility, everything is high. Everything is where it needs to be and above. So in that respect, he doesn't know what to say to me. But if I have got PCOS, that would be the main game changer, because that would be the cause of all of my issues. And I left from there. I had numerous scan appointments I had to go for, numerous scan appointments. And I remember having these appointments, internal exams, all sorts. My appointment came back again for last August, and you know, I had to go and see the consultant for him to tell me about my scan results and to tell me what he thought I had and what the next steps were. And I remember I went in to that place and he wasn't there. He was off that day and it was cover. But the gynecology department was so busy that day. You know, everyone was trying to cover for everybody, and I ended up having a student doctor who was sent down to help the department. I ended up having him. bearing in mind, I hadn't spoken to anybody to get this PCOS confirmed. It was a thought that the previous consultant had, and I had to have the test to confirm or not. So I'm going now, I'm ready for them to tell me, you know, what my results were. And he didn't tell me. He assumed I knew. And he was talking to me, and he was just quickly trying to read my notes, and he was saying, well, obviously you were diagnosed with PCOS. And I was like, when was I diagnosed with PCOS? I said, I've had tests done, I haven't officially been told this is what I've got. And he said, well, it's in your notes that you've got it. And that's just how he was interfacing with me, because he was a student, he was on his own, he didn't know what to do. He was just trying his best to have this conversation. And he kept running out of the room to speak to another consultant to try and get them to advise him what to tell me. And this lady came in and she said to me, all your fertility results have come back fine. So the only thing you need to now go and do is lose some weight. She said, if you lost 1.5 stone, try and get pregnant, you'll get pregnant naturally fine. That's what she said to me. Just go and lose some weight, you'll be fine. She said, you only need to lose like 1.5 stone, and you can get pregnant, you'll be fine. Because the medical personnel are conditioned to say, you tell them to go and lose some weight, and that will fix the issue. But let me tell you now, in no uncertain terms, weight is not a main component of PCOS. It's one of them. But there are people that weigh a normal weight and they suffer from PCOS. So it's really hard for medical personnel to turn around, because they don't know what else to say to you. So the only thing they can turn around and say to you is this, well, go and lose some weight and it'll be fine. So she decided that she was going to prescribe me metformin, because she'd read a paper where they tested metformin in different countries, i.e. Australia and the USA, and it had some positive effects on women who suffered from PCOS. Now, she sat there and gave me the disclaimer that it is a white label drug, which means it hasn't been proven to work. It hadn't been proven to work for PCOS, but it had worked for some people in some trials. So she was going to prescribe me this for 6 months, and I must try it and see if it makes a difference. And in the meantime, I needed to lose 1.5 stone. That may sound like an easy task for some people, but bearing in mind, I spent the whole of my life on a diet. I literally tried every diet going. When I was 12, I joined Weight Watchers, and I've been doing different things ever since then. And for me to lose weight had been a nightmare. I could go to the gym every single day. I did exercise, I ate well, I ate healthily. I ate what I thought was healthy for a normal person, but not for a person that had PCOS. That's the difference. I did so many things that were positive to try and get my weight down, and all I did was gain weight. I could drink water and it felt like I gained weight. I did everything that was within my power. I followed so many different diets. I did so many restrictive diets, and I still couldn't lose weight. I still put weight on. And here was this consultant saying, all you have to do is lose 1.5 stone, take these tablets, and you'll be fine. And I'm thinking to myself, just sitting here talking to you guys now, and I'm saying that if this is the kind of advice that our medical professionals are telling people, they are setting people off on a very slippery slope. Simply because losing weight and taking some metformin tablets is not going to fix your issue. There's so many different components involved in trying to manage, not even fix, because once you've got PCOS, you don't get rid of it, but you have to be able to manage it, manage the symptoms, balance your hormones, and there's so many different things you have to do which will help and support you in doing that. It's good to lose weight and be at a healthy weight. We know that. But when you've got PCOS, losing weight isn't really an option for you. No matter what you do, no matter what you try, unless you have a nutritionally based or a nutritionally balanced diet and you understand the things, because there's so many things that affect PCOS negatively in terms of food and drink. You literally have to know and understand nutrition to be able to understand the things you can't consume when you have PCOS, because certain things cause your body to be inflamed. You have insulin resistance, so many different things fighting against you. It's so much more intricate and detailed than your medical professionals telling you just go and lose some weight and you'll be fine. It's not that simple, it's not that easy. And that's why I decided that I can't go through this journey just for myself. I can't just sit here and try and manage myself so that I can achieve my goals just for me, because there's so many thousands of women out there in the UK alone, let alone the world, that are suffering from this thing and they don't know how to manage it. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to get the support from. They don't know what to do. So if it's for me to put myself on blast and to share my journey, as personal as it is to me, I'll do it. If it will enlighten one person and help them to understand what they've got and how to manage it, then it's worth it. And another thing that we have to understand is that everybody that has PCOS differently. PCOS presents itself differently in every single woman that has the disorder. No two women are the same. No two women are the same because the symptoms that they have are not identical. I know so many women personally that has PCOS, and when we discuss, all of our symptoms are so different, but we still have this disorder. We can't treat everybody with a blanket, lose weight, take some pills, because it's not the answer to managing PCOS for those individuals. It may get them out of the door from your office, but it doesn't help them to have a better life, a more fulfilled life, a more balanced life managing PCOS. And that's what I'm campaigning for.